where's the quality check? Where's the, how good's the information? How well do they teach? I mean, we always hear about all these things where like, oh, they're great performers, they're terrible teachers, you know?
All right, we are back for another episode of Left Foot, Right Foot, and today we're going to be focusing on what point should people become a tango teacher? It's a very interesting thought because when I was first coming to tango and I was kind of interested in teaching, I remember the milestone that a lot of people said was 5 years. And I'm not sure if that still holds true today, but I remember that was kind of the benchmark. The minimum benchmark is you have to have at least 5 years of experience before you even think about teaching tango.
Wow, you know what? That's actually kind of funny because it just feels like every year I bring up this topic, the benchmark changes.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you hear? Because mine was
the first thing I heard was 10 years.
10 years, interesting.
And then now it's like, oh, you should be, it just seems like every year it's
they're
like
moving the goalposts.
Yeah, it's like nope, you're not teaching. So
all right, in 10 years now, it's actually 15 years.
Yeah. It's always like I started 10 years ago, and it's just kind of funny.
But the quantifying years is interesting because my 5 years, it might be drastically different from someone's 20 years, right? And
or someone's 2 years. Like let's say someone did 2 years of like every day in VA. I mean, why not?
That's true. I remember when I first met Facundo de la Cruz. It was right after he won 2012 Mundial, and I asked him, how long have you been dancing? And he was kind of shy to say, but he had only been dancing for 8 years.
Yeah.
But he was literally dancing
every day.
8 years.
There are stories like he was like I heard like he was like. He was the real starving artist. Like he was sleeping on floors at his friends' places, crashing. And even when he won Mundial, someone stole his shoes, so he was borrowing someone else's shoes.
Yeah, I know that.
So it was, that guy just, just to overcome all that adversity and still come out. So gotta give him credit. But going back to the topic, I don't think length of years is a good measurement.
No, definitely not. But if we don't go by years, what is the parameters to say, all right, you're ready to teach? Or should there be any parameters?
Well, I'm going to say something very unpopular.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think anybody and everybody should and could be able to teach. And the reason being is, will it be a viable business? Maybe, maybe not, right? But the thing is, how many people go out there and they grab their friend and they go, hey man, let me show you a few moves and like you should try tango, right?
Okay, but that's more of like a peer-to-peer, there's no money exchange, it's just kind of sharing your own thoughts. I mean, setting up a business and trying to get clientele, that's a...
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the initial start.
Right.
Because you start with that peer-to-peer, next thing you know, you got like 20 people, next thing you know, it's like, I can't do it in my garage anymore, why not? And then it also depends on the size of the community. I mean, what if you're in a community with only one teacher? Why not? Hawaii doesn't have many teachers. Idaho, I don't know how many teachers are out there, but definitely not as much as LA. So I think it's one of those things where it depends. It really depends where your heart is.
That sounds so cheesy.
Hey,
it's where your heart is.
No, the reason why I say that is this. Because if you're out there because you lost your job and you just need to make another buck, you can do it. Sure, go ahead and do it. But market-wise, you're not going to last. I'm not saying there's no money in tango, but what I am saying is that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work that you're not going to get paid for in terms of advertising, in terms of getting yourself out there, in terms of like bugging people to show up to class, doing like free performances at the college. There's a lot of unpaid work. And
so it's got to be a passion project.
It definitely is going to be a passion project. And whatever money you make, if you do make anything, it might just be enough to keep your website going. So, there are people who do make a living off of it, but just because Justin Bieber became a superstar doesn't mean like I could like just pick up a microphone and start singing on YouTube. I could, but am I going to be successful? It's better to be realistic about it And I think when it comes to where your heart is, if you want to give something to the community and you think you have something of value to give, the market's going to dictate if it's worth receiving or not. So, and maybe your first edition of class is going to be terrible, but if you keep on sticking at it, it's going to be refined and going to get better. So I say, you know what, if you got the passion for it, go for it.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of times there's these tango teachers and they solely rely on tango as their, main source of income.
Yeah.
And so then I'm not gonna say your intentions change, but I think that your motivation for kind of gets skewed a little bit.
It does. But I guess it's one of those things. Let's say if I made burgers, right? And I rely solely on my restaurant for my living. And let's say you make great burgers too. Mm-hmm. Should you not make burgers because I make burgers also?
Okay, I see your point, right? But the market share, everyone likes burgers, right? So there's a huge market for that, right?
Yeah, and I think
the market share for tango is not nearly as much as people like burgers.
Well, yes, but I would also say that there's more people doing burgers, there's more people doing yoga, there's more people doing all these businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the issue, what I see is generally people who sign up for tango, to teach tango or to be in the business of tango, they don't focus on getting new people into tango. It's like, hey, I'm gonna start teaching, and then I'm gonna post in Facebook tango groups, and so then it runs this idea of fear where you're just splitting the community because there's only so many dancers, right? But if you look at LA, we've got how many million people?
Yeah.
Every person is a potential tango dancer. So if anything, the focus should be on getting new people. Everyone should be focused on getting new people. And I think that when you're new, you have more passion and more of a drive. Generally you have more of that dog mentality to go out there and get it. Where someone who's been doing it for years, I feel really bad for a lot of people who've been doing it for years because COVID hit, and then that just put them back at ground zero. And it's 8 years, 10 years, how many amount of years they were in the business to build it up, it just disappeared overnight.
Okay, but what about, so I think we're missing the big issue here is what about those people that I was all right, I learned tango for a year, now I'm ready to teach? Well,
again, I think the market dictates, because if they bring someone in, mm-hmm. They're gonna notice it's let's say I'm a 1 year person, I start teaching, right? Mm-hmm. They might learn something from me and they go, that's cool, but then they go somewhere else and they're like, well, they have more information over there. Yeah, I'm gonna take my business over there. Eventually people are gonna go and find the teacher that's best suited for them. Okay. And maybe the 1 year teacher, the 1 year dancer who becomes a teacher,
yeah,
maybe they're good in terms of giving people that happy feeling of I'm gonna keep on going. And that's good too. I mean, it's not always about, I think one of the downfalls of tango teaching is that we focus so much on creating great dancers mm-hmm. that we don't create volume.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to create. It's a lot more work. That's a job in itself.
Yeah.
It's to market the dance and culture. But I think another one is a lot of people say, well, you have to be Argentine, right? You have to be Argentine to teach tango.
Well, you're not Argentine.
Right, but there's a lot of claims that, you should at least have a partner that's Argentinian or, just have some kind of connection to the culture.
Okay, but if you're in Idaho where there's no Argentine people, should you just not teach because there's no Argentines around? Or do you need to pay for someone's visa, bring them out there, house them and everything so you can teach tango? I mean, I think that's a little ridiculous.
Well, there's a lot of non-Argentine tango teachers and dancers that got a lot of flack for teaching in their own style and not going according to, I don't know, whatever trademarks or codes that a lot of Argentinians have established.
Yeah, but there's also non-Argentine people who are well respected in the community who actually made a name for themselves. I mean, Junior Cervela, he's Brazilian, he's not Argentine.
Yes.
And he's well respected in the community. Does a lot of stage numbers for people to use in competition. So and I think he's soon to be running his own thing in Florida. So I mean, where's his flack if he's not Argentine?
Well, then people are gonna push the goalpost and make it say, well, you have to be, South American.
Well, but that's the thing. Like you always hear that. You go to the Milonga, it's like, oh, you're a tourist tango. You're not a tangero. You're not an Argentine. And if you're Argentine, you're not a porteño. It's like, people are gonna use whatever they can to make themselves feel superior in some way.
And I think it's a lot of branding, right? I think it's because people want to sell that I'm Argentinian. I know the true, authentic tango, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like that is branding. But if they don't make people feel good, if they don't teach people in a way where they're receptive, where it's received well, does it matter? If they're not commercially viable, is what I'm trying to say. They could be. They could be the world's best tango teacher from Argentina, right? But if they're not commercially viable, then it doesn't matter anymore. Like what if they have no communication skills whatsoever and they're terrible at business and I don't know, they forget to pay rent every now and then and the place closes down. Okay, I speak my experience from other, not from tango, but from other arts. And I've met people like that, where they're great teachers, but they're terrible business people, and then they're just full of drama. So then that makes that person commercially not viable. So what's the difference? Like, would you rather have someone who is commercially viable, could actually survive, balance their budget, is consistent, shows up to class on time, teaches very clearly, or would you rather have an Argentine? I'm not saying like all Argentines, but I'm just saying does the fact does the fact of being no. Does the fact of being Argentine? Does the fact of Argentine matter so much that that's the only reason why they're there? It's almost like being a diversity hire. Like, oh, you're Argentine, you must be great. Where's the quality check? Where's the how good is the information? How well do they teach? We always hear about all these things where like, oh, they're great performers, they're terrible teachers.
Well, how well does someone teach? If you think about it, like, is teaching making you feel happy, or is teaching giving you something that you're going to learn later on?
Well, everyone as a client, everyone wants something different. When you first start, you might want to just be happy. So you're there, you find your tribe, you find a place where you're accepted, and that's great. I know I've seen places where like the dancing's not great, but everyone's happy and everyone's together, and they are their own community, and I can't fault them for that because that's what they want to do. Is it great dancing by my standards? No, but can I fault them for being happy and paying money and doing what they want to do?
I guess that boils down to in another kind of transitioning to like the Tango School, right? And so here, like, we have, I think a lot of success actually spawns from these tango schools. It's kind of it's manufactured. It's like these cohorts of students that come in. It's almost like a factory-oriented thing, but it seems to legitimately work. If you think about it, in LA, we have two of the main source hatcheries that are tango schools: Oxygen Tango School and LATA, LA Tango Academy.
And I think that's great. What they do is great. They're great at marketing. They're great at bringing people in, and they're great at giving people a sense of community. Because let's face it, like, dancing tango is hard, right? And it's better to do something hard when you're surrounded by other people who are willing to have a certain sense of kinship with you. Because it sucks to do something hard and you're the lone wolf in the crowd. That makes it even harder. And sometimes that happens in tango, where like you see a lot of people drop out after a year or two, like, I'm not getting the dances I want. The community is unfriendly, and you're the lone wolf in the community, and that kind of sucks too. But if you start off in a place where they automatically give you your support structure, I think that's what makes tango schools very successful. In terms of like business, not necessarily,
Well, yeah, the other controversial side, because you see a lot in these tango schools, is they do a lot of like students teaching other students, right? You have more the intermediate teach the beginner, the advanced teach the intermediate, and so I don't know. I mean, some people will be up in arms like, well, these people just learned. How can you teach somebody else, right?
Well, they know more than the person under them. It's like, do you have to be a master to teach someone how to take their first step?
Well, I mean, if you want to take that first step with an immense quality, maybe.
Yeah, but the thing is, like when you took your first step, did you have immense quality?
No.
So like that's where I talk about, like, volume matters. I'm much. I guess my school of thought is you can overcome a lot of quality through sheer volume.
Well, then, if that's the case, why even take classes with these masters then?
Well, that's a good question. No, it's a legitimate question, because the thing is, like, because maybe you want to hone in your technique, and like there's a certain amount of detail that might have not been spoken.
Okay.
But even for me, like, I come to the realization now where it's not that I don't appreciate the masters, I do appreciate them, but where I am now, I feel like the best thing for my self-improvement is 20 hours of practice and maybe one class.
Yeah.
Rather than 20 classes and 2 hours of practice.
That's like so different from your old mentality.
It is. but like,
I remember you just was like class after class after class.
Yeah, it was. But I've changed a lot, and I think that's my personal feeling of where I am and what I want. And I've noticed that the more volume I put into it, even if it's like kind of shaky, it eventually cleans up. I think there's this idea that perfect practice makes perfect. You've heard that, right? And because a lot of my martial arts instructors will say that. But then here's the thing: is that it's nice. That's more, to me, that's more of a goal. It's a goal to be perfect, but it's the volume of practice that eventually makes it perfect. Not necessarily like breaking everything down to have that perfect session once. And I think that, like, there's that allegory of the potting school. There's a teacher who divided his class in half, where he told one half of the students to, like, make the perfect pot.
Yeah.
And they spent all the time to make the perfect pot. And then he told the other half of students, like, make as many pots as possible. And what happens is that the people who made the most pots end up also making the best pots.
Yeah.
Because it's just out of sheer volume, their craftsmanship, like, increased. Where the other people, like, they're so hesitant, they're just trying to, like, make the perfect pot that they had that failure to launch syndrome kind of thing. And that's what I'm talking about. It's that sheer volume.
So, but how do you get sheer volume in tango?
Like,
by going out dancing every night, or
well, there's going out dancing, because if you like the volume, like, we always talk about putting your floor time.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not have the best technique per se, like picture perfect salon competition grade, but you end up developing your own style. You end up, like, your embrace eventually gets better. You meet more bodies. There is something to say about sheer volume, and I'm not saying you can get away with practice and having no classes. I think having classes gives you a shortcut through just sheer volume. But when you think about, like, the 1920s, a lot of these guys didn't have classes. It's just like, hey, let's meet in the park and let's just, like,
show you something.
Yeah, that's not really like a real class. And then it was just people just
It's like a mini private lesson, though.
Yeah, but it's a lot of repetition. And then at the same time, it's like, is this person qualified? We run into the same issue. Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, hey, if it's in your heart and you want to do it. And you'll find out if you're commercially viable or not.
I mean, at the end of the day, there is no qualified, honestly.
Well, technically, there's a I think there's a Tango University in Argentina where, like, they actually give out diplomas.
But people would argue that why? Who cares about that? And
Yeah, but also, like, yoga. How many like certified yoga instructors from, like, some guru there are? I mean,
well, because when employers hire people based on these certificates, but no Tango employers hire people based on the certificates.
Ballroom people might.
Ballroom, but we're talking about Argentine Tango.
I know, but Argentine Tango does take place in ballroom also.
It's true, but that's a different.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, people want, like, there are many ways to get your foot through the door and start teaching. You could do it yourself. You could find ways to use someone else's structure, whether it be a ballroom school, whether it be a dance school or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the question we're talking about here is, when should someone teach? And I would just say, when you feel like to, and if you have the passion to do it, and if you have the drive to actually start your first class. And it might suck.
I mean, I can hear it already. People are going to be like, well, we already have too many teachers. Like, when enough is enough, right? When you go to any major city, especially in the U.S., you're going to just see a handful of dozens and dozens of teachers, right? And so at what point, if the teacher's going to outweigh the students, isn't that a problem?
Well, but that's the thing. It's like, that would be a problem if that's the case, right? But when that happens, people are eventually going to see, hey, we all can't market towards, like, okay, if I start teaching tomorrow, and I'm going to go, okay, but there's way too many teachers here. What am I going to do? Of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the outskirts of LA where no one wants to teach. Fill
the void.
Yeah, fill the void. I'm gonna really look for beginners or new people. Because look, I might have danced for 12 years, but I don't have a track record. So what is my name on like a Facebook group is going to say for advertising?
Yeah.
And I think that's really the problem. That's where people go. Like the whole idea of we're going to split the community is because people don't. They don't see the community as an ecosystem, and they don't know how to add people to the ecosystem. It's just, I'm going to teach, and I'm going to teach you, Mr. Beginner, how to be intermediate. I rarely hear people go out there and say, I'm going to teach you your first steps in tango. And we need more of that. If anything, we need more of that.
No one wants to do the grunt work.
No, but the question is, if you have a passion to be a net positive to the community, you take that.
Yeah, it's like a huge, it's a lot of work for a minimal payout.
Again, it's a passion project, and that's the
Yes.
thing. Like, are you doing it for the money? That's why I said it depends where your
People
heart
are
is.
doing it for the money.
Well, if they're doing it for the money, they have no care in the world about the quality of tango or like what they're doing to the community, then legally there's nothing stopping them. But I wouldn't do it because it's a bad bet. To me, I do it because it's a passion project. But if I'm gonna bet money, like I'm like I need this to make ends meet, I'd be a bookkeeper. No, seriously, you know how many people hate accounting?
Yeah,
Like, that's easy money.
that's true.
I'd rather do 8 hours as a bookkeeper, make six figures, like a low six figures, doing like 8 hours a day as a bookkeeper, maybe more and charge extra during tax season, and then use that to fund my tango my tango habit. But to use tango to fund your own tango habit, it's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze if you're thinking just purely monetary base, unless you've got like some secret sauce I don't know about.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it's definitely very flexible. I think to be a tango teacher, you're going to just really want to be a tango teacher. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I don't think there's an experience level or a specific time frame or repertoire of skills you need to learn. I think it just comes down to, are you willing to put in the work for a very little reward at the end of the day? And
also, are you willing to put up the fight? Because that's the thing. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight with the community because everyone's gonna go, oh, there's too many teachers already. We don't need more teachers, right? But if you have a passion for it, even if you have a passion to give it away for free, right? I'm gonna go to the park and just have free tango. People are still gonna get pissed off at you because they're like, you're taking people away from me because you're doing it for free, and I need to make it
you're lowering the value of my repertoire.
So it comes back down to is that it has to be a passion project. You have to want to do it, and you have to have the dog. You have to have teeth to get into the fight, because it is going to be a fight, and there's no other way for me to say it. It's going to be a fight, and if you're ready for it, kudos to you, man. You have all my support.
All right. Well, let us know what you think about tango teaching and whether or not you have a requirement or a parameter for specific tango teachers. We would be curious to know, but let us know in the comments. Thank y'all so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Left Foot, Right Foot. If you can, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can keep up to date with us on our newest content.
It really goes a long way with helping us create more interesting and exciting content for all of you, and we appreciate all of your support. Thank y'all so much.